Hey, morning. Yeah, I think it's that clock change. I thought that hadn't happened yet, but I obviously just wake up when I'm awake. And yesterday I woke up at like 3:30, not 4:30, 5ish, and then the missus said, "Yeah, the clocks went back." So that's literally why I've got like an internal clock, and I'm still waking up at the previous time. But I'm not going to bed any earlier, so it's like the days are longer now. I just put this Mega Drive back together, and then we've got an Amiga 500 work on today. Oh, nice. PS2 fats, we've stopped working on them. I've got one more coming back in, but we're just finding all the PS2 fats at the minute. Every time we're opening them up, they're just not working when you put them back together. The ribbons are, like the ribbon connectors are failing, and whether we're just getting a really bad batch of repairs in with them, and they're just that fragile that sneezing on them is breaking them, but we've just limited the repairs now to PS2 Slims, to be honest, just because of the amount of PS2 fats we're seeing where the pretty much I think it's the ribbon cable connectors are going. Whether it's from people opening them up before and opening and closing all the time. But yeah, they seem to be a nightmare at the minute, so we're having a breather from them. We might relist them at some point, but with how busy we are, that's another one that's I think the only thing that's going to survive PlayStation repairs with us is going to be the PS1. Everything after the PS1's terrible. I'm wondering where the external screws are. One, two, three. Yeah, I put the external screws somewhere else. Because I've got exactly one external screw, which is a bit strange. So either I've lost 3 screws, which is possible. I normally have leftovers. Or I put them in a safe place and forgot where my safe place was. I've got spares anyway, so I'll find the rest after. But yeah, that's strange. I've got one external screw. That's all in. Where's the metal piece gone as well? There. Yeah, so I definitely I've had this out though because last night I've actually made I've made the clean power for this already. So I designed it yesterday after stream, and it's in production now. Yeah, we're definitely gonna send this back to the customer with one screw. I'm more curious of what I've done with them. Like I said, I've used this board to design the new mod, so I've got a feeling they're just in the other room. Oh, I also forgot the shield as well, so let's take that one screw out and put the shield in. Oh yeah, I've put all them screws in without the shield, so let's do that again. Not even paying attention to what I'm doing this morning, because half of these screws will be covered by the shield. I thought it didn't feel right when I was putting it together, because you don't normally see the dots on the circuit board when you're screwing down. Good job we got an electric screwdriver. This would take a lot longer otherwise. Right, so that goes in there. Let's try to do it correct this time. None of those are... Oh yeah, they are. There's one external there. Oh, I know what I've done. They've probably put... There'll be screw holes under there that aren't used. That's 3. That's the 4. Yeah. So we've got all the screws. It's just the... Because I didn't put the metal shield on, there was a load of screw holes under there that aren't actually used. That explains that. Yeah, so I've designed the drop-in version of this mod now. I'll show it in a second. So we've got another one in. I didn't even notice, but we've actually got another Mega Drive in with the exact same thing, a clean power. Sorry, a clean RGB. But I don't know whether to wait for the prototypes of these new boards to come, so it's like a perfect test. I'll have to see how old the order is, whether we can wait or not. And now we have magically all 4 screws. Oh yeah, it's as enjoyable for me to do as for you guys to watch, to be honest. It's so I have to try and remember sometimes to appreciate your job, because so many people say how awesome of a job it is to be able to sit and repair old consoles, and it definitely is. It's well enjoyable. So that's the Mega Drive from yesterday done. Let me just show you the Mega Drive, put him on there. I'll show you the mod I've designed for it. Close that, pull the source code from the other room, drag this over here. I could have just shown you a picture, to be honest, from Discord, because I posted it on Discord yesterday, but I might as well show you the actual PCB. Mega Drive 2, and I've put Mega Drive 2 clean RGB, but I'm pretty sure this RGB mod's going to work in the Mega Drive 1 as well, so I'm pretty sure we've got a universal one. So that is... pull up that screen. That's now the new designed one. So obviously this is the 3D model of the board. This is tiny, so this is 20mm across by 17 down, I think it is. But the goal will be, this is going to come all pre-configured. So you see there's none of them dials on to tune. They're all preset with resistors. So it's the exact same thing. It's the clean RGB universal, but with the resistors setting the exact value, so you don't have to tune it. And all of these pads are right next to the pins of the chip, and it's going to come with pre-stripped wire, the exact length, the exact size. So all you'll have to do is stick this chip down and then blob solder on the wires to the ports. So it's going to be a super quick install, and it's also going to be a lot cheaper than the universal one. So that's on its way. We've got samples being made, so I've only just designed that yesterday. but it shouldn't take long for samples. It's a really simple board, and the factory's pretty quick. Hey, thanks. I'm glad you like what we do. I enjoy it too. That's why I'm up nice and early today. So we will be now on an Amiga 500. I haven't even got it out yet, so not done any prep work on this whatsoever. Not even normally I'll test it at least see if it like has the problems the customers say. And I haven't this time. I just jumped on, so we'll find out together if this one's even got the problems they say and what we need to do. I've no idea. I just know it's next up. I better find out which ones we've got 5 in, actually. I just turned around to grab one. There's one giant one in a box. There's 3 on the shelf. And I think there's one behind me somewhere. So let me just get the order number. 51198. If it's got paperwork, I can find it from there. 51198. Oh, it's going to say box floor anyway because it's that big, so I don't know why I've checked there. So 51198. 52198. Have I wrote the number down wrong? Surely I have. Yeah, so it's going to be this one. So we have this Amiga 500. Now, make sure I don't give away customers' details. See, this is the problem with this one. Let me turn this around so you see. I kind of sit here and read, and then the paperwork comes in on camera because of this damn thing up here I always forget. So I have to counterintuitively face the cameras so you see the back of the paperwork, and then this shouldn't catch it. So it almost need to face it over here to look away. Right, we have, well, I can just fold it out of the way so there's no personal details on. Yes, I think we're safe there. Nothing on. So what we have here is the Amiga 500. Requires diagnostics, so it doesn't work. Nothing else selected. So sometimes people do this. They'll just send it in first to see what's going on before they then commit to something else. So the note at the bottom, please let me know additional costs and how much RAM. So basically the customer wants us to try and figure this one out and then contact them once we've figured it out. Don't just post it back. They might want more work doing, basically. So yeah, this thing is huge. This is basically a complete computer all inside. So we've got all the gubbins there. We've got a floppy drive on the side. We've got a power and drive light indicator. These things are, it's one of the first Amigas I worked on, the 500s. The worst for rot on the PCBs mainly. That's the main issue you get. Caps almost always need doing on these. So when you power these up, they'll normally smell a fish. That's a sign your caps are leaking. You want to get them changed because they do damage these boards. So my guess before even opening this, and has it ever been opened? Yeah, people have been in it before. Like most of these things from the 70s and 80s, these have been worked on and serviced, usually by the owners. They were a lot more about the kind of right to repair back then. But it's probably been ages ago since somebody's been in it. And my guess is going to be, there's a giant clock cap, I think. I don't know if it's on the 500 or the Plus, I forget. But there's a big ass clock cap somewhere here. That normally leaks all over the place, basically, and does damage. So I'm going to guess that's the problem. But let's first boot it up and see what we even get. Oh, thanks for the sub, Retro Mark. Thanks very much. I don't think the counts update on screen live, but we should have a new indicator now on this. Where are we? On the horizontal, it's there. That little list of like subs and donations will update when you join the channel as like members and Twitch subs and stuff. And on the vertical, on the vertical, it's just on my shoulder there. That's like that should be a live updating feed, but again, I'm not sure how rapid that thing updates. And then if you do subscribe to like the paid memberships, whatever they're called on, I think YouTube's and memberships and Twitch's subs, then your chats will appear on stream as well, so I see them easier. Otherwise, I'll rotate back to comments in a minute. So we need a power board first. Go behind here. Power. I don't think we'll need a mouse for now. We'll just need an AV port. So you can see the power is also a giant brick. So we'll get this up here. This is why, one of the reasons why I made my desk bigger when I started working on Amiga 500s, because I couldn't fit this on any other rubber mat. So this is pretty much the cause of why I got this size rubber mat. Power goes in the back, which you can see on the back. There's obviously tons of connections. We've got two joysticks, which is usually mouse and joystick. Audio left and right. You've got external floppy. You've got serial port for comms, parallel port for comms, power. This is then the RGB video clean out and an RF port as well. So plenty of stuff on the back. And then we have also the floppy drive here. So these aren't PC, like Windows PC style floppy drives. They're specific to the Amiga format. But you can convert them. I've wrote an article on the wiki, retro6.wiki, that tells you how to convert between a PC floppy drive and an Amiga. And I think we've got an SCOM Amiga 1200 coming in, and that's actually the newer versions that did use PC floppy drives converted. Right, what do I need? AV cable. I think I'm down to my last one because we've got loads in at the minute. We've got an Amiga 1200 to build. We've got 2 or 3 1200s in. We've got 2 500s in. They seem to all be coming in at the minute in like a flood. Oh yeah, and then we've got, if you had one as a child, wait till you see this. Where are we? So goods in. Look at that pile. There's all your consoles. That thing there is an Amiga 1200 I brought. So that's now come from eBay, fully working. It's what I try to buy is the customer's originals as well. So the one I brought off is the customer's own console from his childhood, and I've got hundreds of games in there. So maybe we'll open that up after. That's the one I'm going to be doing up and converting for sale that somebody's already brought. So that's literally, if it's the one I'm thinking, that's got hundreds and hundreds of floppies in. So if we get time, we could look at that as well. Because that is obviously on the list of jobs to do as well. Right. Video, input, put audio in for the fun of it anyway, but I don't think we're going to get anything up. You'll normally get sync coming up and then nothing loading is what we'll see. That's the typical thing when there's problems, but I've not tried this, so it might even just work. We don't know. Do you ever sleep? Yeah, to be honest, I enjoy it. It's I enjoy what I do, and I'm like dieting and exercising at the minute a lot. So I think part of that is I'm getting up earlier because your body's always in like survival mode, I guess. But I'm normally up anyway early. It's just normally 6 o'clock, not 4. So I'm up a little bit earlier than normal at the minute. But to me, it's always free time. Like if I get this all done now, what we on like 5 o'clock, is it something like that? We'll probably have this fixed up, maybe another one done. It'll be 8, 9 o'clock before I even start the rest of me business and work, and I'll have already done, a good 3, 4, 5 hours sometimes before people even start. So it just feels ace that you've got extra time and extra work done. Why people are fascinated by it, to be honest, I think it's people revisiting the childhood, and in today's modern age, where everything is instant gratification and all that stuff, I think it's just more pleasurable. I've started playing more and more retro now, and I've done this retro business now for, I think, 7 years. And in all fairness, I rarely got time to play until recently. And in the last 6 months, I now play tons. This is actually going to boot, I think. It's got intermittent issues. But yeah, I think you fall back in love with it. When you get back into retro, you do realise you enjoy it. It's just simpler and easier. Yeah, you did see a Halo 4 360. That's a maxed out ready-made build with RGH and the complete games library. Somebody's brought that. So that's another thing I've got to do. So on the floor there's like the stuff is like ready-made consoles, people buying them. So we've got the Neo Geo maxed out. Everyone seems to be buying maxed out at the minute, mainly in Saudi Arabia. We've seen a lot of consoles go there. I think we've sold 12 in 2 weeks to there, like £1,000 plus consoles, multiple to single people. So there's definitely a retro scene kicking in Saudi at the minute, I think. Yeah, I rarely play modern. The only thing I'm playing modern is that Resident Evil 2. I'm absolutely loving that at the minute. The Resident Evil 2 with the AR, not VR, just AR, like the X-Real glasses. So you just got a massive screen in front of you. Absolutely loving that. Played it last night for about 3 hours. Absolutely shit myself. Got to what's that? I should know this. I love Resident Evil, but your first main boss with the eye in the shoulder. He dropped in a machine room because it's completely different than the original. I'm absolutely loving it. I can't say how enjoyable that game is at the minute, but I suppose it is a retro game on a modern one. Right, so this green screen, chatting away and forgetting, this is normally an indication that it does a self-test when it boots, and it's trying to tell us that there's something wrong with RAM. That's the general consensus there, but I'll almost guarantee it might be RAM, but it's probably more likely trace damage by the RAM area. That's what I'm going to guess. So let's open this giant beast and see what we're dealing with. Of course, it's got the Torx bits we need to find now. And with cleaning up and moving stuff around, where the hell did I put the Torx bits? I keep everything in a set place, but then when you eventually move your stuff around to clean up, you forget where the new set place is. There we go. Oh yeah, the Pi Storms in the A500s. I've got a 1200 of a Pi Storm. I do loads of it. Well, I used to do loads. They seem to come in waves, the Amigas. They literally go from nobody buying or sending in an Amiga. Ooh, super chat. Pop into Smallthorne Oatcakes. Ooh, yeah, I definitely will. I used to love the ones in Hanley, the O.T. Mostons, but I think they've gone now. They used to be obviously the Potteries, but the Potteries is dead now, isn't it? So they used to be up there every weekend, and I used to love them getting the whoppers. Literally, oatcakes as big as this Amiga, and I'm not joking. So huge circular. I think they were 12 or 16-inch oatcakes. They were crazy. Right, let's get this one opened up. Yeah, so the Amiga's kind of, like I say, come in waves. We'll get none at all, and then now we've got 5 in the last couple of weeks. But we do actually advertise in the Amiga. Like, there's a new Amiga magazine. So we advertise in there, and I think sometimes if it's a good episode or they go events and they get popular, then we start seeing the repairs as well. Advert for the new Halo, as in the series on TV that Netflix have repurchased the rights to, or an actual game. I don't think I've seen any that Netflix series. Then you definitely need to. I saw it on Prime, I think it was, or wherever it was. But Netflix have now brought the rights to it, and it's doing popular. But that is crazy good, like adaptation to the screen, really good. I think that's all we need. The others are the floppy drives. Let me just cover comments as well, because they're not popping up on screen, obviously, unless you're a sub. So I've got loads I haven't read yet. What are you doing to that dinosaur? We're bringing him back to life. If you're debating selling that Amiga, definitely reach out, because I've got loads of 500s and 600s. I've got no 1200s. I can't even keep them in stock at the minute. So literally, I've just brought one that's still boxed up, and I need another 2. So I'd buy a 1200 off you. Another I'm up early comments. Yeah, I am at the minute. I'm up a little bit early, but wide awake. So just starting work. Oh yeah, the Addams Family have I've barely played it on this, but I've got the GoTech with all the games on. And I've got all the floppies. I like to write the actual floppies and use for my one. I like to actually insert the floppies and listen to the noise and wait for, it's just more, again, nostalgic. On the side of these things as well, when you lift these up, so start lifting them at this corner, and this is where, if you've only just started working on these, the first few, I was breaking tabs, and only on the 500. But you want to lift up here, and then see this line here. There's a tab right in here, so just get in there, just do that. And that helps this tab here not break. They're fragile, and they still might break. But when you're on the 500s, do that both sides. apply a little bit of pressure with your thumb, go into the groove and flick like that. And that just helps them really weak plastic tabs from breaking, basically. Little pro tip there. I only know that because I broke so many when I was starting working on them. And then I had to design a little 3D print or something to fix it, I remember. Yeah, we can do the Pi Storms on these, but a lot of these customers want the originals. It is a big thing that even though they can have the Pi upgrades, and I personally like them, they definitely prefer the feeling that it's original, and it's one of them that the Pi Storm still uses. Majority of the custom chips on here basically emulates the 68K, an off-the-shelf processor for the most part. It can now do more. It emulates the hard drive and things, but to me, the heart of the Amiga is still in there because it's not emulating the other parts of the circuit or the physical board or the keyboard or the ASICs. So to me, it's like it's on that verge of being too much that you've removed from the original. It's almost an emulator, but it actually isn't. If you know how it works, it isn't actually replacing some of the key things. So I personally love the Pi Storm, and I do recommend it to customers quite a lot. But this one is an original, basically. Early start, yeah. Pretty early, 5-ish. Not too bad. I think I was on at 3:30 yesterday. There's notice somebody's plonked in a couple of feet to hold the keyboard. I thought the keyboard was sticky when I was trying to remove it. I don't really call that being stock. So we'll leave them on there for now. But somebody's plonked the rubber feet inside to potentially hold that keyboard up. So maybe there was an issue with the keyboard flex or something. Right, where am I putting? Up there. Keep the internal screws at the top. So we have one more there. Bar out the way. And then even after you've got all the screws out, we now have to deal with bending up all of these tabs. So where are the tabs? So for example here, so we've got to get under the tabs, bend them up. This thing's that big, it barely fits on the desk. Under them tabs, lift up. And we've got to go and do that for all the tabs on here. So there's 2 there. There is 1 at the side here. Actually, this one isn't too bad, the 500. There's 1 back where we were. And I think that's it. It's the 1200 that's got way more folded metal. And then I think if we've got them all off, this should now lift up. There we go. So that's another external cage. Yep. Oh, and shocker. Pretty much predicted it. So this is quite a mess, I will say. Are you prepared for this? Dun, dun, dun. This is why you change your caps. This is why we do recaps. So see this is a clock battery. The problem with this is it's massive and constantly charged, so it causes the electrolyte to leak. All this green is completely knackered circuit board. So all this fluff on here, all these dark traces, all this here. There's going to be a lot of rot there. This socket is potentially infected as well with rot. You can see under. We've got the signs of dark rot here. So you see the rot under there and there and there. So this would normally be, in most instances, this is where I'd tell the customer I'd stop here to save them money. I wouldn't even try to use the money on the diagnostics, and I'd potentially save them something and say, right, do you want another board? But I have fixed them worse than this. So it looks pretty bad, but I can fix this. There's just a lot of trace damage. So let me think a minute. Yeah, you can't use expansion port. That's a good point as well. Yeah, with the Pi, you can't use the expansion. That's on the 1200 though. On the 500, it sits on top of... It's been a while since I've done the 500. I can't remember whether it sits over the socket on the 500 or whether you lift out the 68K. I think on the 500 you lift out the 68K all the way over here. And I think the Pi Storm sits on there, but I've been doing that many 1200s lately that I can't remember that one. Fixed PS5s, yes and no. We pretty much do the HDMI ports on them. That's about it. We're too busy with all the other stuff to do much else on them. But there's plenty of people that will do the PS5 repairs for you as well. So I'm just going to inspect the rest of the board first to see if we think there's going to be any further damage. And before I take these ribbons off as well, because they're not normally marked, I'm going to put on here top and top A for Amiga. And then that lets us see, when we're pushing it back in, which way around it goes. Because when you pull these off, it's not the cable that isn't marked. So your cable's got your indent, but this is not marked or indicated in any way. So it's got a missing pin there, but that doesn't really help us when you're looking at a cable. So I always like to mark that. If I'm going to remove it from the floppy, I'll do the same. So what do we do is the question. No, yeah, never noticed that. Apart from the fact that pin 1 isn't pin 1. So yeah, red line on this one, pin 1, but it says pin 1 here, pin 1 here, pin 1 here, and CN11 there. So you're easily going to get confused between, there's a pin 1 there and a pin 1 there. So it's not something I'd rely on, and you know, for the sake of just writing on, it can be easy to get mixed up. Yeah, so the rest of this board looks fairly good. So I think we are going to be focused in this area. The problem is we could do all this work and actually have bad RAM, but the fact that, I don't know whether this one said it was working. No, it didn't. I've got another one in that said it was working and failed, which would hint that the RAM was fine and a trace rotted. But I think we'll go for this. I think we'll attempt. At least we'll put some time into it and see where we get. Because this should be hopefully salvageable. So let's get the floppy drive out. And we'll need the posi for that. But yeah, if there's ever a sign, mainly clock capacitors are the worst because they're such high. Probably need to change the tip on this. Most screws I'm working on are slightly different size. Most clock caps are that large that they've got more fluid to leak and they're constantly active. So you'll tend to find that if anything's going to leak and damage the board, it's things with clock capacitors and they're the worst for it. Oh, one more there. I'll let them screws fall out. And this one now, of course, we have one more. The PSPs we don't work on. Again, one of those consoles that most of the problems are either the shells, the DC jacks, the internal PMICs, and most of them are the PMICs, which aren't really repairable because they're custom and there's no replacement at the minute. But generally, yeah, neither of us like working on them anyway. So it's not something we do. When we had them on, it was one of them that we just worked on so much, we didn't like working on them anyway. Screen zoomer, no, these are pure cameras. So the overhead is an actual Blackmagic camera, and I'm clicking a button that I've wired into it to zoom in and out, so we can get nice and close. And then I've got a little bit of digital zoom as well if you want to get super close. But this is pure optics. This is an actual camera above my head doing that. And I just flick a switch at the side of me to do that. Right, so this now, before we can take this out of the board, this is why the base rate is on most consoles, because the time it takes to disassemble as well. We've got to get all of these. Well, I think you can take it out of the actual housing now, but then before we can get the metal shield off, we've still got to remove a load more screws. So it's another piece out the way, this out the way, and we're getting somewhere like now. So this is the floppy screws. So one corner for the floppies, one for the internals, one for the external screws. Do we always work this early? It just depends when I wake up, but and what I've got on for the day. Sometimes I've got other work on, but at the minute I'm enjoying the early mornings. Everybody else is asleep, so I get on with some work. Just all depends on how I feel. There's no schedule at the minute. It just happens to be that way, I think. Where is, there we go, the other one. Morning, welcome in. We're on an Amiga. It's good as well that now I know if I see the chat down there, we also know the people talking there are subscribers as well. So it's actually good to see, because then you can get a feel for, as we're getting loads of chat, who to make sure we're focusing on as well. Then missing chats from people that are supporting you isn't very good. So I like that new feature. It's a lot less distracting having all the chats at the side and then just the subscribers pop up in the middle. It lets you kind of focus. We're just working on an Amiga 500 at the minute that we've just spotted this insane cap rot on. So the clock cap's leaked everywhere, basically. So we know the issue now. But I was debating whether we even attempt this. What I'm going to do at a minimum is we'll remove this chip. This is going to be fragile as well, so we might get popcorning on this due to the rot. But again, everything's repairable there. I think the last time I did one of these, I removed this chip, the cap, all these resistors and diode. I kind of gutted the board. This one, the customer has only paid for the basic diagnostics and might not want that level of repair done yet. So I'm probably going to remove this chip, this cap, maybe, I don't know whether to leave these in, and then sand around here and go for a repair, hoping that, even though we're not going to remove everything and go extreme on it, because again, the customer hasn't yet committed to that or paid for that, we'll try and get this thing at least booting, so we know there's a chance of it working, and then I could quote him for the remaining work to lift more components up and do a better job at fully repairing traces. But we need to, that's a small one. We need to balance the, oh no, it isn't. We need to balance the money the customer's paid with the level of diagnostics we're doing. Otherwise, you could, waste money for the customer, or I could be working for nothing. So you've got to do certain things to the level of the repair, and this one isn't something that we necessarily know yet if the customer wants to go all in on this repair or not. It's a battery, not a cap. On this one, it is, it's 3 coin cell batteries inside. They're just actually, I think the 3 1 point something coin cell batteries, 1 point something volt inside. But when you're talking about them, you normally call them a cap. They're normally called super caps or clock caps, but yeah, this one is a battery in a sense. And we have brand new ones of them, so we can replace that with the brand new one if the customer wants. Some people leave them out so they don't rot in future, but others will just obviously take care of the systems if they're going to use them, and then they'll just get serviced again, basically like a regular service to make sure that they're still good. This is an old Amiga 500. Move shop. No, we closed the physical shop and we went back to online only. So we used to be online only, and then we went to having 4 physical stores, I think. Oh, become a member now. Now you'll get your chats popping up here. So we closed the physical store again after about 3 or 4 years of having one. It was just only really making the rent. The rent was ridiculous with it being in a local store, and the guy that charged the rent just overcharged massively. So we were only making rent, and it just wasn't worth the time it took the staff, the amount of staff I had to have to keep it manned and all that kind of stuff. For a little store in Stoke, just wasn't worth it. Right, let's get to doing some actual work on here. So we will want to zoom out. Let's start with getting this ugly ass, I'm going to still call it a cap, but it's 3 batteries stuck together. We can see there's the pins on the back here. So we got 1 pin here and 2 here, I believe. I don't think this middle one is the cage. I can't remember. Let's see. No, I don't think it was. So let's just let's get this off here. And we'll probably have to zoom out on this a bit as well because it's such a large thing. We'll warm this up, and then we could just pull from the other side to lift that side out. So get it nice and warm first, get some fresh leaded solder flowing through to the other side. Now a bit of flux, turn it around, and to be honest, this is that large. I think we're just going to do it from this view so you get a bit more. Otherwise you don't really see much, you're just seeing a super close up. So I'm going to put the tweezers in here, angle a little bit of pressure, and then warm the pad up, and then hopefully you can get one side out nice and easy. So see how that's now got one of the sides of the battery out. We can now just do the other 2 pins, and it'll probably drop out. Yeah, that's what I thought with like the batteries as well. When you replace the batteries, I was tempted to do exactly that. Either enclose them in something, like you do with the old RC, well, not the old, like the RC cars. You can like get a safe charging bag where you put, when you're charging your batteries, you put them in a fire retardant bag. I was thinking something like that for the caps, like a little bag, so if it ever leaked, it's not the the acid isn't the electrolyte isn't going onto the PCB basically. Which we might do here, and it might be as simple as I don't know, like you say, just a flying lead out the way of anything else. So what you could probably do is, if we were going to put a clock cap / battery back in, we could maybe move it over here where there's nothing, and flying lead it back over to there, just so if it ever leaked, it would leak here and spread and barely do any damage, and something like that. Or you could enclose it, but we'll see. Right, that's off there. So now the biggest concern here, these almost always popcorn, because the texture inside of here and the quality of the inner layer of the circuit board adds moisture. So these are very prone to popcorning, which means bubbling up. The air gets inside the layers. So these vias are exposed, these little dots. Hot air gets through them under into the internal layers. The internal layers have moisture and expand, and you get bubbles. So removing this chip, I'd normally do it from above, and we've got to sand all this down anyway. I'm just thinking more about the best method to remove this. I'd normally just hot air from the top and lift out, but I've got a feeling that's going to popcorn the board. But it's just as likely underneath. These are fairly prone to it, especially once they've been rotted on. I'm going to go from above because above is quicker. If you're heating this chip, the heat will spread out to them legs faster. If we go from underneath and we've got this trace rot, this electrolyte, it's going to stop heat transferring. So I'm going to go above, and we'll try and lift this clean out. Well, we will lift it clean out. We're just going to try and protect the PCB as much as possible as we're doing this. So I'll probably take my time on this, almost preheat the board a little bit, because that will help with drying out the internal layers and not expanding as quick. And we'll see what happens. We've got the same comment again, that the invested in a desoldering vacuum. Definitely not. I've got one. They're shit. They will rip the traces clean off this board. I've shown it multiple times. Other people might use them, might have success. On the old systems, and especially for me, you'll just rip traces out of the 20 traces, you'd desolder pump here, you'd rip them. If I wanted to get rid of the solder on the back, I'd use this hot air and desolder pump. That's the technique I'm debating whether to do. Hot air and then desolder pump. But, as I mentioned, the heat on these boards will want to popcorn the board out. So we ideally want to get this chip off as fast as possible without causing more of that risk of the board bubbling, basically. Expected lifespan would be originally probably 10 to 20 years was the original lifespan, but these have lasted clearly over 40 years and they're still going strong. So I don't think anything we build today, I don't think you're going to see a PS5 working in 40 years, are you? They don't work a year after being made. So there's definitely something to be said about how things used to be manufactured, for sure. All the subscriber counts actually updated this time as well. I think that's the first time it's updated at the top left. Hey, you love the videos, thank you very much. Let me just scroll up some chat a second while I'm preheating this board. I'm mainly staying well above to preheat it. Yeah, exactly. Do you think you'll see a PlayStation in 5 years? No, not a chance. Every single PS5 will be dead, I think, within 5 years. What we're doing here, we are going to attempt this massive battery rot fix on an Amiga 500. So the old clock cap / clock battery has leaked all over the board. That's what all this green mess is. So the main chip affected is this chip here that we're going to remove. And I'm just trying to do it nice and slow so that we don't popcorn the board and bubble it, because it's already got plenty of damage and it's going to be very weak and poor in the inner layers of this board. So it doesn't really do anything. It just makes the board look ugly if you popcorn it. It's just one of them things you don't really want to do. But I know these are already a susceptible, one of the computers that's very susceptible to it as it stands, because the inner core absorbs moisture, basically, and that's what causes it. So you can see, as we're drying it out now, I don't know, the camera's kind of picking it up, but see those little dots now inside the, zoom in so you can see. This is how you know you've kind of dried the inner core. So them little dots there by the U, so see all these little dots, so one there, one there, one there, one there, like running diagonally up. Those little dots are the inner core drying, and see how here where we haven't dried it yet, you can't see them inner dots. But over here, you can see them dots. That's how you know you've now dried the inside of the layers of this board, basically. So that gives us a bit more thingy that we've actually dried it out and it's not going to bubble up. So that's what I'm kind of trying to get. I'm trying to get the... That's not a bad angle there, actually. There we go. Get a bit more flux on and we'll try and dry. Also, flux is usually a no-go when you're removing these and you've got a risk of popcorning because the flux gets inside the board and bubbles. But in this case, it's a balanced risk between helping with the flowing of these pins to be able to lift it quicker. It's all a calculated risk, basically. Sony making awful south bridges, apparently the amount of PS5. Yeah, so when it first came out, the PS5 was all HDMI ports falling off. That was pretty much the thing. And we were seeing, when we had the physical shop, oh god, we were doing PlayStation 5s, literally multiple a week. Whereas now we don't see so many HDMI ports, but we don't really work on the repair side of them, so obviously it sounds like they've moved on to making other parts crap instead. And you can see how long this is taking to remove. I'm just really taking my time and heating around the board. I don't want to rapidly heat up this board because of how weak it is. So normally removing these chips would take like 30 to 60 seconds, but Like I say, all aimed at trying to get this one off nice and slowly. Well, I don't know. The bubbling on the board might happen with epoxy, but I've 100% seen it with moisture. You can put flux in one area of the board, not on the other. Heat them both up at the same time, and the part with the flux will bubble and expand. And as soon as it starts expanding, if you pierce it quickly and the air escapes, that'll help. But I've always presumed it's the moisture going inside of the internal epoxy. So yeah, it's the epoxy that's expanding. That is the centerpiece of the core of the board, whether they're FR4 or fiberglass or something else. It's obviously that's expanding with the gases, but are they not caused by moisture getting into them? Because, for example, you won't popcorn a brand new PCB. I could sit with hot air on one of my brand new PCBs and it would burn and blacken and never bubble. But I don't know the exact science, perhaps, that, what causes it, but I've presumed, and the fact that I also dry the board like this helps, that it's all aimed at moisture, not the heat of the board. So you've got to get this board to the same temperature to get these pins out anyway. So you're still going to get this board up to the same temp. But look at all that now, all the electrolyte and gunk coming out. Doing it slowly prevents that bubbling. But yeah, either way, whatever it is, that's what we're trying to prevent, basically. But if you know more about the exact thing that causes it, that'd be interesting, because then we know what it is. But I've always naturally presumed it's the moisture, just from working on them. Right, so we're nearly there now. We can hear a slight creak, which means we're close to this coming out, but you don't want to lift just yet. But we now know we're not far off getting this chip out. And luckily, we haven't done any damage to the board so far, other than obviously the damage it's got. And then we'll socket this chip as well, because this, you might as well, basically. Once we've done all this work, we'll get this in a socket. There we go. Half is out, and then I'll probably... This is where this cap is almost definitely going to be toast. Yes, it is. So we'll swap this cap right by it, and we'll try and come in from this side gently. There we go, so that's out safely. Now, while it's all hot, look at how much damage that's caused. So that's obviously, that will be all that electrolyte all burnt off. Look at the state. So while it's super hot, not crazy hot, we want to still have it cool down a tad, but now is the time to scrub this off. And there we go, so that's done a lot of the removal of that gunk for us, and that's the electrolyte burning, basically, all that black. We've got one cap to replace here, which always fractures because it's right next to that while you're doing all that work. And then the chip itself is probably okay, and if not, it's just a 244, which I always forget will be a basic logic chip. A buffer, a shifter, something. All the 74 series are just basic logic. Is that a PLCC 32 BIOS? This thing here, no. This, oh god, it's been ages since I've worked on. This is the Angus, you've got the Paula, you've got the Gale, is this one? No, this is Gary on this one. So the CIAs work on the external ports. So the functioning for like the serial and the floppy. The if I remember, the Denise over here is the video out, so it handles video processing. 68K for obviously the main processing. The BIOS is here. Fat Angus is like the glue chip, I think, on like the Mac's the equivalent of a glue chip. I think this obviously glues a lot of stuff together. It's almost like an ASIC for, co-processing with the 68K. Paula was that sound, if I remember rightly. Gary was to do with, I did all this when I was first diagnosing and repairing it. Can't remember fully, but I know Gary's got something to do with the data path as well. But that's off the top of my head. I haven't worked on a 500 in a few months, and then when you work on all the others, you just forget. So everything I learned on them is on the wiki, though. So everything I remember about them will be written on the wiki. Vinegar's a good shout on this at the minute, but all vinegar is going to help us to do is to neutralize some of this, and we've got to sand it down anyway because there's so much damage. So we can get some vinegar on it, but it's not going to do us massive favors because the plan here is to almost lift all of these out and sand all this down. But I'm just trying to judge. A customer hasn't paid much yet, so we're trying to balance figuring out how much work it's going to be potentially to get it up and running from what he's paid versus saying there's another, I don't know, £100 of labour here or not. So even though this looks really bad, you'll probably find you're dealing with just a few trace damages that are critical, that are completely gone. And we want to try and, because of the customer's budget at the minute, find the broken traces and just repair them first, not necessarily go too far into fully restoring this yet. We want to try and see if it's going to work for the customer, and then they'd probably pay for the full restoration after. So I'm just trying to balance the time more so at the minute than, if I was doing this and the customer didn't have a budget and they just wanted it working, then what I'd do is remove all of the chips in this surrounding area, the entire set of chips, the sockets, all the caps, all the resistors, all the diodes, remove all of this, sand the whole board down, refix every trace, recover it with silk screen and resocket everything back. But that's a lot more cost than the customer's currently paid, basically. So that's what we're trying to do. What we are doing is fixing an Amiga 500 for those joining in a little bit later. So we have the Amiga 500 on the bench if we zoom out, and the rest of it's on the floor at the minute, but the old Amiga 500s. So you might remember these when you see them. But you've got the case there, you've got the floppy drive at the minute loose. This is backwards, so if we turned it around, go to there, that goes in there, goes on there. Camera I've literally lent on with the thing, so this is what they look like pretty much, if you remember them. Try to get it in view for the vertical. So basically trying to fix one of these up for a customer, and at the minute the main issue is what I suspected before I opened it, which you see regular on these, is the old battery here, the clock cap as I call it, has leaked all over the board. And if you want to see what these are as well, these are literally just, you can see the bumps in them. See like 3 bumps, see the little lines there? These are just 3 bog standard off the shelf coin cells, rechargeable coin cells, wrapped. So if we just peeled this off, it's damaged and destroyed anyway, but you'll see it's not actually anything special. It's just off the shelf batteries in a battery wrap. So there's 3 batteries all sandwiched together. They've been spot welded with 2 tabs on, and there's the original battery. So you can see it's just three coin cells strapped together, and this thing's leaked all over the board and rotted everything basically. That's what's happened there. So that's the culprit of all this damage. It's booting up saying that there's basically a RAM issue, but that's going to be these traces. So it's how far we go now to try and get this one at least booting in some way, but on a fairly tight budget at the minute. So I'd want to, everywhere you see this black, see this board's so shiny, it's very hard to capture on the camera as well. That's the other downside to these. They're such a shiny board. Yeah, they're just shiny, basically. So I'm going to probably sand this down with a normal light sanding pad to remove the old silk screen from it and see basically if the copper can survive sanding down. That's the quickest way to find weak traces, is if you sand them down gently, good traces should survive and still exist, and you've just removed the silk screen. Whereas weak traces, they'll rip apart or damage or show that there's a pit in them that's missing. So that's the way I like to do this if there's been battery rot, is to, you know, slowly sand this down. So let's just pick this area, for example, and you can see where it started exposing the copper already here. We can take a look to see if that's already pitted. And if we see lots of pitting straight away, because all this black is almost guaranteed it's started to eat through. So if there's too many pits here, then we'll save the customer some money now pretty much, and say that unless they want to go quite far with the trace damage repair, that this is going to be, it's cheaper for me to replace it with another 500 board. I've got plenty. But you can see here, if they survive, we can also use a multimeter to check between the connections. But either way, I want to get this rot off the board regardless. I wouldn't want to leave these black speckles, like all the speckles down here. So this is my technique for identifying any broken traces, basically, as well as being able to visually see it and probe the pins as well. So that's what we'll do. What we're repairing, it's an Amiga 500. The big Amiga, well, an Amiga 500 Plus in this case. Customer did ask as well how much RAM was in. All the sockets are filled on here. So I believe, again, I haven't worked on one in a few months. If all the sockets are filled, it's going to be 1 meg. 512s will have staggered memory. You can also see we have 256 per one, so 256. So that will be, in fact, no, this is probably 512 because they're 256 kilobits, I believe, not bytes. So you got 1 megabit, 2 megabit. That's a good point, actually. No, it won't be the megabits. It'll be megabytes, but in pages. So I think that's the 1 meg. But we can obviously find that out. The customer was just curious whether it's got the 1 meg or the 512. But I'm pretty sure the 512, you're just missing the RAM down there. That's the quick way of telling. But those chips are 256K chips. And you can see how far this damage has spread. It's like it's gone quite far. We're not too concerned about stuff up here. This is mainly non-critical for boot. So all these traces up here go up to like the floppy controller, the CIAs and stuff. These are the critical signals going from the Gary down here to the data path, because these are what select the RAM and stuff, and it won't boot past that. So we may well get it booting if we just fix this area, but then identify there's other trace damage. But the key focus is definitely in this area between the Gary and the data path. That's where we want to focus on looking for damage. And this is fine sandpaper, so just about takes off the silk screen layer to expose the copper, and it'd take a while to eat through copper doing this. How did I get verified? I'm on TV and in newspapers and stuff quite a lot. I'm also going on another BBC, potentially going on a BBC mainstream TV thing soon. So I've got a lot of news articles and major TV people that show me off. So it's quite easy to get verified. See, the fact that these don't want to sand down easy is a good sign, because that means that the silk screen's probably still quite intact and it hasn't rotted through very much yet. And I just keep spraying IPA on just to clear off the dust from the silk screen. And would you believe it, the part under the battery is probably the part that's least damaged with all this corrosion. The traces are quite deep in here and they don't look too bad. Ah, nice, we've got somebody spamming the crap out of TikTok. Good job it doesn't show up on stream. Maybe they'll bugger off in a minute. It's the other good thing about moving chat to just subscribers only. What grid or grit you mean on this? Not even sure. Just very fine, I'd say. Feeling it, I'd say 1,000 grit. I don't know whether I've got the pad. Where did I put the pad? Literally lost the pad. Oh, up there. 800. No, actually 600. That's not 600. There's no way that's 600. But either way, it says 600. I'd say it's 1,000. Feeling it. I've probably worn it down though by now. But the goal here is we don't want to see any dark green. Is the key. Because if we do, then we're still going to look at the board. If we see solid green, like the light green, we're not going to question whether the trace is good or bad, because you can see through. So you know well, it's not a guarantee, but it's very likely that if you're seeing just the light green, your trace underneath the light green's good. Again, definitely not a guarantee, but much more likely. Whereas if you're seeing black under the trace, then you're very suspicious of that trace. So this is just a nice, quicker way to let us hopefully identify and spot a few pitted traces. Might have to get another piece as well. I think this is now that's that worn out. It's not even doing its job now. That actually has a bit of metal on, so we don't want to use that piece. I've got in fact, let me get a fresh piece. I've got them up here. Sanding tons up. Oh yeah, it is it is 600 grit when you get a new piece. I'd just worn that one down that much, it was like 1,000 grit. Is the trapdoor a Zorro port? Not sure what that means, to be honest. Is that a variant of it or something about the trapdoor specifically? I didn't use them as, well, I didn't know much about them as kids. I think I had the Atari, not the Amiga. But I do repair them, but I'm not sure what you mean by the trapdoor question. Obviously the trapdoor's here, but what's the Zorro part of it? See, we might have to remove the Gary chip as well, because, but we'll start without that. You've got some suspicious traces going under here, but I'm hoping it's not. If there's going to be something rotted through, I'm hoping it's going to be in this area, the closest area to it. So we'll try and identify a damaged trace. And usually it's only one or two. You'd think all this damage looks like, you could see at the start how bad it looked. And you can look at it now, and that's not starting to look too bad, is it? Like, all these traces are fine. We've got a bit of black to expose there, but you can now see visually. They might not be. Like, say, you might have micro fractures in them that you can't see. Like here, for example. I don't know whether that's going to be a fracture, so we'll measure But see how we've got that little bit? That might just still be a bit of black, but that does look like those two traces are blown out and eaten through. Same there, that's definitely gone. So there's a broken trace we've found by just sanding down, and the others have survived. But that potentially looks like a fracture there as well. So let's just do a little bit of testing. I know we've got more grinding down to do, or sanding down. We can already see a bunch of broken traces under here. So what we could do is do it staggered. We could try to repair the broken traces we've got and build up. So you can see continuity there, and you're not going to have it there because there's the trace missing. So you got it from here to here, but then you go to the via, that's a broken trace, and you can literally see, and go even more zoomed in, you can see the copper missing. So you see here, that's the trace missing. That's where it's eaten through. So there's nothing there. Here, this little hairline, I'm pretty sure that's going to be eaten through. So we test here to here. Oh, see, so that one's fine, but it's still got a little bit of black on. So I'd scrape that off. Yeah, that's a divot from the socket, but that's actually fine. This one is fine. See, this one again could be a divot here from the socket. So this little bit of black here, but it's fine. That one, fine. So even though some of those look bad, like here, that looks like it's obviously started eating away at the copper, but it's still got a connection. So there's evidence of obviously corrosion starting there, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there, but it hasn't eaten through. Whereas here, it's completely blown through the pin. Here, yeah, I'd almost definitely say it's blown through the pin. Oh, and it hasn't, but that is surely very close to eating through. There's going to be, yeah, look, I bet that's now gone, that tiny bit. No. But that anyway, there is where that's very close to being completely gone, basically. This one is blatantly obvious. We don't need to test it. You can see there's nothing there. That's eaten away. So we've found 2 trace damages there and some very, very suspect ones. So look how thin that is. That's eaten away there, and you're left with a wafer thin trace there. But again, this is where we want to balance doing too much time on the repair versus getting it up and running for the customer, so he can decide whether he wants this entire thing digging into more. So we're not trying to repair everything because he might not want this level of work yet, but we'll repair this pin to this trace, or we'll find out where it goes so we can restore it before we socket it, or we might just repair it straight under here and straight here and then socket on top. So there's 2 there we've got. And now we need to, I don't know whether we just repair them 2 and get the socket in. So if we looked under the socket, the key thing is, if we put the socket in, we want to make sure there's no other trace damage on this socket, like underneath it. And then what we can do is repair them 2 traces, so that one and that one, put the socket down if we're happy that everything else running under there is fine. And then at least we know that area under there is covered, and we can see if it's just that single trace damage as the major cause of the non-boot. Obviously, the board's in quite a state, so the customer needs to be made aware that how far he wants to take the repair, even if we get it working. So we need to fix this one. We need to fix this one. Was it? No, surprisingly, but that's sus. And we've got the... I'll take a picture on my phone of this before we put the socket down, so if then we're suspecting trace damage underneath, we can test where it goes. This is fine. This is outside the socket, so I'm not worried. I just want to make sure under the socket's good. So that one's a definite. That one I thought was bad, but it isn't. I think it's this one. Yeah, so that one's bad. That one isn't, but looks sus. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Somehow that's crazy how thin that is and still fine. So is that. So is that. So is that. So is that. So the only ones we've got to fix are here to here. So this socket here over to there. And what I'll probably do, just for, again, simplicity for now, I'll probably tack on a wire here and just run it around to that side. There's neater ways of doing it and other ways of doing it, but that gives us a nice visual of where the repair is. This one, I don't believe, is the chip itself. Or is it yet? It's pin 1 of the chip. So This one here goes to the second pin down. So again, that's pretty much, I think we'll just wire onto the underside of the chip and bridge that. So once we've done that, we need, once the socket's in, we want pin 1 of the socket going to the second pin down the other side. If we remember that, then I can do that when the socket's in. So that'll recover that one. And this one I will run a wire from here around now while we're thinking of it. And then we can, actually, let's desolder pump the holes first. And then we can get the socket back on for this. And the chip probably does actually want, in this case, maybe a vinegar bath to clear some of that corrosion off. But we'll see. Bridge the brake because there's going to be a socket down here. And we want to see where the trace repair was in this instance for now, because we're likely going to come back and rework this if the customer wants more work. So if I put a little blob of wire or trace there, and then we come to lift the socket out to carry on the repair if the customer wants to go ahead with more, that's very likely going to just disappear when we not notice that that repair was there. So we want a little bit more of an obvious repair in this instance, just so we can see, you know, it'll be fairly obvious if the repair disappears, if that wire pings off and stuff like that. So aesthetics versus functionality in this case, I want to make sure we don't miss that in future, that there is a trace repair there. I want it to be a little bit more obvious. And you can see if you used a desolder gun on this, this is when people say about, oh, you need a desolder gun. You imagine using a desolder gun on these traces. Look how delicate they already are. We'd have ripped more traces taking the chip off than are already damaged. So that's why I don't use, especially on boards like this, I do not use desolder guns. I use hot air, so there's no physical contact with anything hot or metallic. It's just the air that's hot. Right, so that is the socket all open. Yeah, that's all fine. So now we can install a socket in there, fix those two traces, and see if that's the only major issue to start with. The one on the right of that's gone as well. I've only just spotted that note. We'll test them. Well, I think we just tested them all with the multimeter as that since we've tested, and I've just only spotted that message. Or you still think there's another trace bar them too. So we have obviously we have that one blown through there, and we have that one blown to there, and all the rest that look dodgy, like that looks incredibly dodgy. That's tested fine. So I'll just take a quick photo anyway for reference. So once the chip's down, we know where they went. Ah, yes, after we tested. Right, so, wow, getting good lighting on this is a... Something better with that. There we go. It's about as clean as we're getting that photo. So now we want a socket for this one, and then we've still got these traces. These are suspect. These are suspect. So these are key things here. These resistors, making sure these go. So we'll probably go on the top of all these resistors in the cap and make sure they ball out to these after. But like I say, let's try and conserve the time at the minute. We're trying to not use up all the diagnostics time on things that, you know, might not be the problem. And we don't have much time on this because it's just the basic diagnostics only gives you about an hour. So on a stream probably gives us like 2 hours total. So we're technically an hour and 20. So we're probably an hour into this. So we've probably got like another hour. If we wanted to stick within, you know, technically the budget of what I'd normally charge, you'll find half the time I go way over, but I do have to still try and stick to some form of timing. Let's give this chip a good clean. This is going to be fun to get in a socket as well. I might have these new, to be honest, as well, because I'll probably chuck a new one. And this is a 74 LS244. Let me see, and that's quite gunky. See if I've got one. 74 LS244. Yeah, I've got one new, so we will. We'll just put a brand new one of them in at the same time. So these are kits I just make up. So I've had the factories that work with me on like hardware design and that. I just have them make up common things basically. So this is one of them, a kit full of logic, different logic classes. So we want to put a brand new, chucked him in the wrong tub. Get that out of there. We've got a brand new chip for that one that looks quite gunky. So I'm just going to replace him. It's very lightly, it's fine. They're very hardy to survive, but instead of putting that customer's old ganked up one in, we're going to put him a nice fresh new one in. Same spec, 74 LS244N. So exact same chip. And it just gives it a, you know, we could always swap it back in after to prove if it was, but another good reason is when you start using the turn pin sockets, these are going to get much harder to install if you have existing used chips, because these turn pin sockets like nice clean pins. So I think, yep, that one's the one, and then this will go in there, but let's just do that trace repair first. Yeah, it's possible to repair all of these traces. So this is very damaged, and I'd personally do a lot more trace repair than what we're doing here because there's some highly suspect traces. But this is in the name of trying to save the customer money at the minute to try and get it to boot first. So this trace, for example, is super sus. We've seen that one. It's practically eaten through the trace 100%. So like literally this one is holding on for dear life. Like I'm sure if I sneeze on that, that trace is gone. But we've got a photo of it and we can restore him from there to thereafter. I might just do him as well because he is crazy suspect. But yeah, I'm just trying to do a single trace repair or small repairs at a time to save on going too deep into it if this isn't going to work. Otherwise, the customer's got to, you know, either have a non-working system or pay more for repair and not know if it's working. We want to at least see some chances of life in this so we can give the customer some hope to say, right, we've done X amount of work. This is now booting, but look at the damage on the board that really needs repairing kind of thing. We want to be able to say, like, this is highly suspect and this one is, and we want to spend the time to redo them traces, but there's no point doing any of that if I'm going to have to desolder pump that as well. I probably aren't going to get this via to tin, to be honest, because that V is probably quite bad. We'll see. Yeah, we want to basically try and get this thing to show some forms of life first, so the customer can choose what the next steps are, whether he wants to proceed or not. So I'm probably going to use the view itself, to be honest, and fill inside with solder. That is an incredibly fine via, but it's there. So we're going to run this one around. And like I say, I'm doing this mainly so when we come to work on this more, if we do, there's a very obvious repair. So if something pings off, like, you know, we did a little trace repair here, that could easily go missing and we wouldn't notice. Whereas this big wire, we're going to notice if this goes missing. So I'm going to tack it on to the actual trace here. And strip that wire. Some flux on this trace here. I'm going to have to zoom right in, I think, for this one. There we go. So we want to do this one here. I'll just pre-tin these. All these traces will tin up, but it won't matter. Oh, managed to tin just the one somehow. And then get the wire on here. And that's now tacked onto the trace. So now we've got a fairly obvious repair there that you can't miss for that reason. The other repair is going to be once the socket's in on the other side. So the other one is going to be this one here to the next pin down when we flip over. And then what I'm going to do, because we are going to, actually I don't even need to secure this yet. I was going to say we can put some epoxy on here to secure it, some little resin rather than epoxy. But we're not hot airing at the minute, so we don't need to secure that trace in. All the others, even though they look rotted for those that are looking, these are not great, but we're not going to repair them yet until we try and get it up working for the customer. They ball out, so they have continuity, so it's not a problem as such. But we want to just repair the ones that are actually broken to try and see this thing working first, and then we can always go back and fix all the others. We still haven't tested all these yet, but I'm just going to socket this chip. That capacitor won't matter for testing, the one that was over these two pins. I don't think anything else is missing, so we should be able to go for a boot on this. And then if not, we've still got like all these areas to check. The Gary would be next suspect under here. Same with all these. These are going to be suspect. But you never know. With that one trace repair, we might get it booting. Well, the two trace repairs. I don't know whether in TikTok as well I can boot somebody, because we just have spams in TikTok, but I literally don't think you can even boot anyone in on it. So we just have basically a guy spamming chat there. Fourth from left. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, we've tested them all. They look shit, but we have tested them all. I can quickly test it for you. So fourth from left on the bottom. If we put it in here, that obviously just goes to there. Fourth from the top is here, and that little divot is obviously where it started to fit away, but it gets all the way down. This looks suspect, but it gets down. This one does, gets down. That's the other side of the board. This one here to here, and here's fine. So we just test them all anyway to show you. But I think I already did all these. And like I said, they look bad, but surprisingly, they're still hanging in there for now. That one's blown that we're going to repair after. That's normal. That's the same blown chip. That's there. There. That's the... Is that actually making connection? That's very... Like it is, but... Yeah, it is. Because that's the outside edge of the... Actually, there's a point. Yeah, it definitely is. When you get the testers on the right spot, that one's fine. That was fine there. That's to there. That's the one we just repaired now. Yep, so we're confident all them under the sockets are good. They don't look the best, like I say, and we can always do more repair work on that. But yeah, they're actually good. Hey, welcome in the chat, guys. There's a lot of chat on TikTok at the minute. Yeah, this is all the leaked cap. Or the battery as such. It's basically three rechargeable batteries stuck together. This thing's leaked here and damaged everything else you see. So we're just trying to do minimal amount of work to get this to booting first so the customer can make an informed choice. Anybody know if this chip went this way with the notch over here or the notch over here? I'm pretty sure it was the notch on the right side because all the others are. We could always pull up a schematic or visual, but every other chip's facing that way. So if I'm about to do it wrong, you guys can scream at me, but I'm going to go for putting it in this way, basically. And I think we've actually blobbed solder slightly in one of the holes when we were doing that last one. So we just need to desolder wick this hole. Or you can put more solder in the hole, it's up to you. I've decided to go for the latter. Instead of removing the solder, I've just added a ton to it. Let's just quickly retest. Now we've touched it with an iron that we haven't broken a trace. Yep, still good. Let's get that back in. What gauge is the jumper wire? I think it's 30. It's 0.2mm solid core enameled wire. Yep, faces the same way, cool. Right, so I'm holding this in with my finger underneath. So I just hold it like that. Try to solder one of the pads that isn't by my finger so I don't burn my finger. And then once you've got a dry jointed solder blob holding it in, you can let go of your finger, flux the board and do the job properly. So I tend to just tack it in on any pin, one each side. I guess that's now got a quick solder joint on, and that's held in place in the right way. And we need to remember we've got to join this pin to down here on the socket when we're done. But now let's flip over, zoom in, and look how shiny this board is. It's the only problem with the Amigas. So hard to see visually on camera because they shine. I'm going to reflow. These don't look great on the underside either. We'll have a quick look at these after. Reflow these. That's all then reflowed. Let's, before I repair, do that trace repair. Let's try and angle this so the light isn't shining. We'll probably need to get some hot air on this to clean this marking off. I think that's as clean as that bit's going to get. And Yeah, that's just dirt and grime. So those are actually fine by the looks of it. They just looked a bit damaged, but they're not. Oh, I burn myself all the time. I think you've probably heard me at the start of this stream. I thought I was doing well when I was live streaming because I wasn't burning myself, and then started creeping in slowly in between the streams where I'd be grabbing stuff. What do I normally do? It's a very common thing I normally burn myself. I normally pick stuff up. I'll normally hot air it off the board and then pick the chip up a few seconds later, forgetting how hot it actually still is. Right, so we want to go, because we're flipping it over, it's actually mirrored, so we want this trace to go to this trace here. So top trace there. Let's go into this trace here, so we can burn the enamel off. There we go. Clear the excess flux off, excess solder. Flux up the connection. It's probably not actually burnt off far enough away. I need to burn the wire further down. There we go. And just wiggle that off. So that's that wire on. So we have now the two traces that we've seen under the chip broke, fixed. We have every other pin on this chip tested. Do a bit of clean up here. That's a bit cleaner now. And it's sticking in the air a bit. So now what we can do is put the new chip back in and give this thing a chance at booting. So when you're putting them in these sockets, the legs need to be super straight and in line like that, otherwise it's very hard to do. This is machine turned pin and gold plated and a high quality brand, so the best quality socket you can get. And if you get it in first time, you've got no issues. So that's gone in nice and clean. So we've got a good socket there now. We've still got the repair for that trace. We've repaired the other trace going between here. And then obviously we'll focus on everything else after if we get anywhere with this. If we don't get anywhere with this though, we've been on an hour and 20-ish, say, on this. There's only 40 minutes of time left to potentially get somewhere with it, or there's the option to say to the customer, I don't think we're going to get any further in 40 minutes, and refund them a partial amount of the diagnostics. Or we just pause it anyway to ask them if they want to carry on and use the rest of the diagnostics or go further to get a hint at, at where we go from there. But let's just see if this gets us anywhere first. How do we test if the line's still working? We just use the multimeter to test if there's continuity, so a physical connection. We've done that on all the pins, so we know we're good there. Electrostatic discharge, can you explain it? Basically a static charge buildup, and then when you touch things it overvolts into systems. Pretty simple stuff. It's just your body holds onto charge, or other things do. The charge in static particles, and then all them particles send the electrons through to a lower resistance circuit after. The problem with ESD is you can overvolt things and spike things, but pretty much every chip these days for a long while has built-in ESD diodes that take the shunt of voltage spikes. Very low current but high voltage spikes. You rarely do any damage these days to anything with ESD, but some people like to wear, ESD wristbands and stuff like that. I don't bother with it. I've never seen damage from ESD with anything I've done. What am I going to do about the burn spot? Not much at the minute. Where we've sanded all this down, we'll recoat it with, I'll probably put some proper clear conformal coating on, or green conformal coating when we're done, whichever we want, to obviously protect the gold, but we're a long way away from that at the minute. What are we doing? We're fixing up an Amiga, basically. So this is an Amiga 500 that's had a battery leak here that's rotted all across here, so we're trying to clear up that area, find broken traces and fix them, basically. Right then, so power up. We can now zoom out on this, and we want to plug in, what do we need? We need the RGB video cable. We don't really need sound, we can ignore that completely. We need power, which is not on at the minute. You don't need the keyboard, you don't need the hard drive. You need nothing on this to get boot up to basically the Kickstart screen. So I don't think there's anything we're missing. The chip's in, that bit's done. Yeah, that's it. So let's pull it up on screen and let us turn on and see what we get. I don't know whether this is set to, yeah, that's set to there. So green screen still, so pretty much exactly the same. And that's with them two traces. So that's struggling to sort the RAM. We can leave it a minute and see if it cycles a few times and intermittently boots. We can also spray it with IPA to see if there's still potentially trace damage. But the thing is, there could also be actual bad RAM as well as bad traces here. So we'll see. Now yellow, I can't remember what yellow is, but that's a sign that there's clearly intermittent boot problem. So I'm going to wait for it to flash. I'm going to spray this area with IPA. That sometimes helps with broken traces and sometimes makes broken traces worse. Let's see if that does anything to the boot. And if not, I'm going to suspect there's still more trace damage, which is obviously not exactly unlikely with how much damage there is. The other thing we can do is remove the Gary and reseat him because there's some electrolyte buildup in there. But the chances are we've likely still got more trace damage. So that's a no-go on that. So let's just, I think we'll still use the time because there's plenty of area on here that's still very suspect that could be trace damage. We know now this socket's fine, we know this chip's good, and we know the traces between this socket are fine. We've got still the area here, we've got one extra trace there that's suspect. So I think let's just start probing around for broken traces. Let's see if we can find more. If anyone knows TikTok as well, like I say, if there's any way to actually boot somebody off TikTok, we have just one giant spammer sitting there. Let me just jump on my actual TikTok profile. And then is there any way, can I see myself on live? I don't think I even can. Oh, hang on, is that it? Or, live. Live events. It's ironic that I'm streaming on TikTok, yet there's no way to actually jump in and ban somebody, so that spammer can just sit there for now and spam. It's doing nothing. Hold their profile and block. I can't see I can't get onto my own live. Let me go on to TikTok Retro 6, logged in as me. See, in the app, it doesn't let me see my own live, whereas There we go. Somehow managed getting to me live from the site. So there we go. Somehow managed getting to me. Turn my own phone down so I don't get an echo. We just need to wait for them to spam again. So I'll leave my phone open on the side a second there, and then when they spam again, I'll kick them. Right, so all you want to do is go through this and check that all these traces that have still got a bit of rot on. We can carry on sanding down, but I'm going to just scrape away now. That goes down to there, so that one's good. This resistor here will go on top of the resistor and then down to the trace. So that's good. That's good through it. This is suspect here. In between, so you see that really we probably want to lift all these out, which is a bit, I think, going a bit far. I don't think we're going to get that achieved if we lift all these out and check under, but I don't like these traces here. I think that goes to there, which it does. This one goes to there, which it does. We're likely going to have a broken trace under the Gary, is my suspicion on there. This trace goes up to a pin on there. This one is, I believe, straight power, which it is. These go to the other side of Gary, I think. So we can see it goes under there. So that's fine. This one. And if we get past basically where the rot is, then we know the traces are good. Yep, so those are, that's the quickest way of testing. They seem good. This cap is fine. This, fine. So see how much easier it is once you've sanded down. These ones are nice and quick to check. That I can't even see where that one's going yet. That one is to trace the other side, so that's why we're not finding one there. And this one is going to there. So that one's fine. So even though they look bad, all them are balling out fine. Now there are some jumpers here. I can't remember off the top of my head all these jumpers now. One of these needs to be set potentially. But the fact that all we've done is sanded down and there's no connection on here, I've got a feeling these aren't ones that would be set by default. That's fine, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, so there's no damage there, even though we got it. Where else is there's all these traces, so we've tested down to here, but we haven't tested past here. So there's this section here. Let's try and sand that down, I think, this area here. We are attempting to find broken traces on an old Amiga 500. Basically, so this is at a battery leakage here that we've now removed most of it by sanding, but you can see all this rot and this dark green. This is all rotted away. The traces on the circuit, and it's obviously not booting because of that. So we are slowly sanding away all of the corrosion like this. And then when it's gone, we're inspecting for trace damage with an oscilloscope, a multimeter. With the customers only pay for basic diagnostics at the minute, so we can fix it. We can fix any of them, but this is more of a balancing act between how much time this would take to repair versus what are the customer's chances of it being repaired. So we're trying to basically be smart with our time on this one and pick the right areas to focus on to try and find the problems, but without getting too distracted and spending too much time, fixing things that actually, like traces that are fine but they look bad. Let's not waste the time fixing those yet, because if this doesn't get functional, then that's just a waste of time. So at the minute, this doesn't boot at all. We just get green screen, which is a problem with the very early boot stage. The fact we got a yellow screen and we get random flicking on and off as well, it's clearly trace damage and things going wrong. The colours for the Amiga, I think I've got on the wiki as well. You can pretty much ignore all them colours to begin with, because the fact we got trace damage from the Gary chip and the data paths is you'll get any kind of error. You've got a basic address and data bus issue on early boot because of trace damage, almost definitely. So the conventional colours of it meaning a certain thing, I don't think necessarily will apply here, because we're obviously dealing with trace damage much more likely at the minute as still trace damage than actual bad RAM and stuff. So I wouldn't go down looking for real RAM issues at the minute. I'm still highly suspecting the trace damage. Which cap is getting knocked loose? This one just being moved around, you mean? That one's fine. That's fine, that's fine. I can't see any that are loose at the minute. So now we've exposed this area, let's just test all these points go to where they should. So that test to there. So this one up through, up to there at least. And this probably goes through to the Gary chip. Yeah, so that makes its way up to there. I think, to be honest, I think I did I'm doing all this, and I've done all this work on the wiki before, and I think I've already pinpointed where a lot of these traces go and highlighted it on the wiki, so you can quickly diagnose. So that one doesn't make its way anywhere. Up to there. Goes to a trace under the board. Let me just quickly check my own wiki, because I've got a sneaky suspicion I actually put a lot of info on the wiki for this. So, retro6.wiki. Blue one seems loose. No, this one's rock solid. They bend because they're aluminium caps, so the legs are just moving. That's all that is. Right, Amiga 500. Minimum boot. Let me just take a look. Fat Angus, Gary. So I've done the pinouts on the Gary. I don't think that helps massively. There are tons on the odd CIA. Must have had an issue with one of them. No, so I haven't actually put anything public on it. I did write all the jumpers down though if we needed them, but that's not the issue. Right, so let's just carry on with probing. The only one that's slightly suspect is this one goes underneath, but then it's not going to Gary. It might not go to Gary, but the fact it goes under and then we don't get it coming up, we might want to follow that through. We might want to see where that goes. So that's an arc, and it's the third one in the arc. So if we flip that over, that's an arc, and the third one in the arc. So that one, I think it is. So it should be a dot over here, if it is, which is then one of these traces up here, basically. I think that says that goes to. So that was that one there, was it? Yeah, I think it was that one we said that should go over to here. And that's probably the same for most of them. Yes, that's fine over there. Is that another one that jumps all the way over? No, that one just goes up to there. So all those are good as well. So really we're down to here, and then probably we're dealing with this, I'd say. We're probably dealing with the Gary chip having rot under it, because you can see it's got some rot going under. So we're probably going to have to go there next. Hey, welcome in, Perry. Yeah, not doing too bad. We are attempting to find what I'm presuming is more trace damage on this Amiga 500. But we don't have that long left on the clock, really. We've got like another 20 minutes probably to use up what the customer's paid for in terms of diagnostics on this one. And I think we've cleaned most of it. I think if we got the Gary off, there's not much left in terms of the battery rot. I think we've found most of it. So let's see how far we get with lifting this Gary off. Let's just check that one's good as well. Yeah, that's solid. So all of those are fine, I think. I don't think there's any trace damage left down here. We've sanded most of it off. There's obviously under here and under here looks a little bit sus, but we've literally checked all the traces under there using the multimeter. So even though they don't look the best and we could do with lifting them up, they're fine. These traces here, maybe. The fact that they don't want to sand off easy is giving me the sense that they're quite strong, because they aren't sanding down easy. So it's very unlikely the copper under there is bad, but let's just check now we've exposed that a bit more. We have this trace here, goes to here, goes up to there, so that one's fine. This trace here probably goes to a pin through there. So this one is this jumper. Still goes to there, and then I don't know where else that's going, but it gets right the way up to the corner, so the likelihood is that one's good, even though it obviously looks a bit dicey. This one goes through all this rot up to here, gets right the way up, so that's good. This one through the rot doesn't get up, so this one is, yeah, this one's broken. This one's broken right at the point. So this is one of them potentially where it's not obvious it's broke, but it is. Where are we? Yeah, so looks like there's a hairline fracture there, maybe. So yeah, so you've seen this on the other one where it looked fine, and it looked like that, and it was actually broken. Whereas this one doesn't look as bad, but that's broken, and that is just literally right there. So this is one of those cases where we can just blob a bit of solder on there, so long as we either remember we're there or we cover it with coating as we do the repair so that it's sorted. I don't like to cover things with coating until I'm done though. So I'm going to just blob some solder on this one. And just remember that we've done it, basically, is the idea on this one. And this one is actually probably going to need a little bit of wire to make it bridge. Oh, thank you very much, Perry. Thanks for the little super chat. So this one might be a, where's my tweezers go? Might be a microscope jobby because this is awful lighting trying to look up at a camera while doing this. Let's see if I can get it to take. I think we've got it there. And then the telltale sign if that has worked is back on the multimeter, probe on here, and probe up to here. There we go, so that one's restored. And this is why I don't typically do, depends on the damage, but I wouldn't typically do repairs that are too discreet like that while we're in the middle of working, because if we ever accidentally knock that solder or the hot air melts it off, you're going to have a repair that used to work that you'll never spot again and never go back to. So let's just remember that repair's there. Might as well go for another boot, I guess, now we've fixed another trace. You never know, that might be the only other remaining one. For those that are joining in the middle of it, we are repairing a Amiga 500 old computer. So if I just move this off, we have, I'm sure plenty of you will remember this, the old computers. This one from Amiga. This is the board inside, and we had a battery, obviously all in this area here. Zoom out a bit. There's a battery on here that holds the clock, I believe. And this is all leaked and all electrolyte, which is all this green. There's not much left, but see all this pitting and all these green dots. This was the electrolyte from the batteries. It's an alkali liquid that's in all these caps. So see, like these blue caps, they have the electrolyte, and that's why they're called electrolytic capacitors. With age and time, this is leaked, spewed on the board, and eaten through all of the copper and traces. Well, not all of it, but we've fixed a trace here, a trace here. There's one other trace we've just found on the, well, there is one, not just, but on the underside, there's a trace damage on this. So we found 3 broken traces so far. And now we're just going to see if this boots again. That in, let's go for it. And we'll probably still get green screen, but, oh, there we go. That's going to boot. Come on, kickstart. There we go, fixed. So, obviously, there could be a hell of a lot more wrong with this at the minute. This has got pretty bad trace damage down on this corner. Here, we've obviously done bare minimum to get this working. So, you've seen the dodgy traces under here that I do not like at all. They're there and they're working, but literally, I think if you sneeze or put this in the post, it's going to break. All these really want removing, and the traces sorting. The Gary chip is suspect as hell under there. So if we don't get that off, resocket and clean, this will probably last the customer 6 months of use and then die again. So even though this is a repair in a sense, this, I would not want to send this to the customer. I would highly advise them that they have the Gary resocketed, all the traces under there fixed, all these components removed and refitted. More work done here to clear the rot off. And then probably, I think that's it really then. Just basically a lot of care taken in this area of the circuit board, because you've seen the state of this board. Like, quite a lot of you are hinting as well, aren't you going to fix that? Aren't you going to do the... There's that much damage down here. Like we can't show the one that was crazy suspect under here because we've covered it with a socket, but I think I've got a picture on my phone that we took, which shows it. So there is my phone screen. Can I focus on it? Yeah. So look at that trace. So that has been held on by hopes and prayers. So that's the only reason that trace is surviving. The most ridiculously thin trace. So basically, we've done what we wanted to do here. We've successfully got this thing booting to a very basic beginning, which is showing the kickstart. The next would be to test the floppy drive, the CIAs, the extension ports, everything, to give it a full hardware test. That's another stage altogether. That's like a 30-40 minute job in itself. So we're not going to spend the time doing that anyway. We want to first see if the customer's happy to pay for the further remedial work, or does he want us to give it a full hardware test and see if there's other issues, because you might have issues going up here. The CIA chips might be dead. The floppy might be dead. The serial port might be dead. Getting to this screen is just the beginning, basically. But we've managed to get it somewhere, which is what we wanted. We now know there's hope for this board, basically. Oh, that spammer's back. Let's see if I can kick that spammer now. So we said 2 seconds on this. Let me see if I can do me TikTok magic. Where's that spammer? So hold on that spammer's profile. Report. Just spam, isn't it, basically? Spam. Submit. Right, so let's see if they bugger off now on TikTok, or whether they are going to still be able to post until somebody reviews it. Looks like it's potentially worked. So now, I don't know, do we chuck this in? What do we need to do a hardware test? I need a GoTech for the floppy, which I've just used the other one in another build. I'm contemplating, do we run some kind of hardware test on this? What's the purpose? Would they restore that collector? No, these are still majorly actively used and played. So people actually, I've got one. We build these up and play them, basically. I say play, they're also a computer, so some people work off them. They've got printers on them. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. But no, this is a big scene. If obviously you won't know if you're not into it, but if you're into it, this is a massive scene in the retro. Right, I think we'll go for a hardware test, because technically the customer's pretty much used his time. He's got like 8 minutes left on official time, but you know what I'm like, I'll do usually bloody 4 hours more work than I should, that I'm not paid for. But let's just do a little bit. Let's get it back in its case. And I'm not going to bother with any of the shields, because this is 100% going to be very likely coming back apart. But let's at least get this back in, and I suppose we can actually try if his original floppy works as well. And then I can load the Amiga test off the floppy and do some basic testing. What soldering stuff I use? I am going to be, if you want to learn this kind of stuff, I am going to be doing this on subscriber-only streams, like teaching people how to do this and what equipment I've got in that. But to solder the really small stuff, you don't need small irons. This is pretty regular size iron, and the tip's quite large. You just need the right temperature, the right technique, good flux, good solder. It's more so having the technique than it is anything special. The only thing I'd say you need good is, this iron is a £50 iron that I've got here. So this thing is just a £50 AliExpress jobby, and it does as good as my £600 irons. Doesn't do as good as my £1,000 irons, but this is more than good enough. This little yeehaw, yeehaw, 9823, whatever that is. That iron works perfectly fine. Solder, just use leaded solder. Flux, use Steri flux, basically. With those 3 things, you'll probably not be far off doing pretty good as it is. Right, so we have board in, floppy in. That's all we need, actually. Keyboard, we... no, we need a mouse, though. We don't need keyboard just to get to see if the floppy... Well, we don't need anything to see if the floppy drive's going to boot. But if it boots, we'll need a mouse. So let's just pull that up, turn on. Presume we're still going to boot, which we are. Get my floppies, which are behind here, I think. So here's a blast for people that can't remember. Who remembers floppy disks? And write in your own. So we've got rough and tumble. We can attempt a game. Why not? I was going to do a hardware test, but sorry, let's try play a game. This goes in. That hasn't detected or hasn't read the disk, because that screen should flicker. There we go. Well, it has detected the disk, but I'm guessing it's going to fail to read. So his floppy drive's either a bad floppy drive or struggling to read the disks. So let's just chuck in an Amiga test kit. See if it can read this one. Because this is a lot smaller than the game, it might read this just about and get us into a test. No, so floppy drive bad. Let's get a known working floppy then, which I have somewhere. Working 1200, so the 1200's fine. This will still work on the 500. It's just this one isn't marked. This might be the wrong way. This just wouldn't physically fit in a 500, basically. And the connector is slightly different, but if it goes in that way, that, I believe, should still boot. Yeah, oh yeah, the amount of floppy disks I had that corrupted on me. This is a known working drive as well, so if this doesn't boot, it's the system. So this, unfortunately, is a problem with the CIA or floppy. Let's just try... Is that all the install disks? Workbenches, yeah. None of them. Try another one. Yeah, so this is unlikely to be the actual floppy drive. It's more likely to be, I'd say, CIA. We could do, to be sure, this is how you're going to be absolutely sure that it's not floppy, is we'll put a GoTech in. I've just got to probably whip one up because I don't think I've got one ready. And then the GoTech's going to, you're not relying on floppies, even though this says working and it worked in a 1200. Maybe the caps on the board aren't in good enough condition, so then it's going to struggle to boot with the power and the draw. So let's just... I've got one more. I'm just avoiding the... Actually, we could also... No, it hasn't got the hard drive, has it? Plug this in. Center here. There we go. So this is a second working 1200. So the chances of us having two drives that I've said are working all of a sudden not working is very limited. So let's try this one. I always forget which way one of these opens. There we go. Up. See if this works. A piece of RAM failing after falling on the floor. No, I've never damaged anything like that. No, so that's definitely There's something wrong, I'd say, with the floppy. So we'll go tech it just to prove 100%. But there's no way we've got 3 discs that are all bad. There's going to be trace damage up there as well. But the customer has the option there. They could obviously they could PyStorm this and load all games off there, but they more than likely want the floppy working. So that's that. Plug that back in. Morning. Yeah, we've been on now for 2.5 hours. So it's getting late for me now. We've seen the sun, so it'll be time to get on with other work shortly. We've got this Amiga up to the this initial screen, basically the kickstart screen, but customers pretty much only paid up to this stage so far. So we're doing a quick hardware check to see what condition it's in, to be able to tell the customer where we're at with the repair, basically. Yeah, the flux will make a biggish difference to your soldering. Probably more so your iron and your solder first are good parts, but flux will also help as well. It started at, I don't know, we're 2 hours 20 minutes into the stream. I don't know what time we're on. 7, 6, 5, yeah, about 4:30, I'd say. Right, let me get the GoTech and then we'll go through comments, because there's a load of comments I haven't seen. Got one here, which is actually going to be needed. This might not be set up for the right one, which it isn't. If we're going to use it as internal, I need to move this over. And that's now set up for internal. Right, let's go through some of these comments a minute. Computer was getting cleaned, RAM stick dropped by accident. No, well, I don't know. Saying that, modern RAM sticks, like on DIMM sockets, flexing, maybe micro fracture. There's a chance. It's unlikely, but there is a chance. It could happen, but I've never personally seen it. And there's a video on my Angel 6 YouTube where I build a 10 grand computer at the time. It's probably worth about $1,000 now. And I just lob all the stuff on the floor as a joke, because that was one of the running jokes at the time, that how things are fragile. So I literally just lobbed everything on the floor at the intro to the video. For those of you that got that joke at the time, basically. So now we need a USB stick. And it survived fine. I don't think RAM's that fragile that it's going to break dropping it on the floor, but all things can happen. USB stick. Right, we want to load this up now with the Amiga test, and then we should be able to boot from this. If it boots from this, then it's probably more than likely we'll need a recap as well, but I'm almost going to guarantee this isn't going to boot. I would not expect this to boot because the working drives didn't boot, basically. Format this in FAT32. Right, there's tons of messages on TikTok. Let me go through these in a second. I've done everybody else's. Quick partition and quick form dynamic offline drive. Why is it a dynamic offline drive? What the hell's going on with this one? Out. Back in. I'm pretty sure the GoTech can't read exFAT. It's got to be. Dynamic disk, what is this? Right, sod that off. I don't know what's going on with that. That USB stick does not want to work. try this one. Nice cheap 32 gig. This has got exFAT as well. Let's reload that. So this still says dynamic disk. There we go. And wipe. Delete partition. Create partition, FAT32, okay. And now we go to engineers, Amiga, floppy disks. And these will do. Let's dump all them on. I don't think we'll need anything else. I think this should be pre-configured for us enough. So now we go in the GoTech. Right, let me do these comments. I keep saying I'm answering them and then I carry on. Right, TikTok, let's scroll back up. Oh, there we go. It's booted while I'm not even talking. So that's interesting. I'm not sure why there's nothing wrong with the floppy then. I've got two. I wonder if the Amiga 1200 floppies don't work in the 500 off the shelf then. That's strange. So we'll run that test in a minute. Not really. I don't think I've missed any comments in TikTok, to be honest. It looks like most of it's just you guys chatting to yourself. On the other chats, you changed jumper on the GoTech, do you mean? Yes, there's jumpers on the GoTech because it's a universal floppy drive that works on loads of retro consoles. The ones I buy come with, if I zoom up or out here, it comes with a jumper here, which is for DF1 if it's internal or DF3 if it's external. So I've changed it to here so it's DF0 when it acts like a true internal floppy drive. Mainly just because certain games check what the floppy drive number is. And if it's not the right number, you can't boot into games and certain things. So that was what that jumper was for. Hey, thanks for subscribing. And it looks like we've fixed it, by the way, if you've not quite left yet, or fixed it in the sense that it looks like his floppy drive's bad because the GoTech's working. So now we can run some hardware tests. So I'll grab a mouse. Yeah, the connector looked different visually, but I think the pinout's the same. So it's we could test his keyboard as well, all the buttons, but let's just run some hardware tests first. So this is obviously not screwed in at all. I have to hold the board while I plug that in. All right, so mouse is working. Let's do controllers first. So mouse obviously working. Probably shouldn't have done that because I need to plug the keyboard in. Otherwise we can't get out of this menu. Sometimes this resets the system as well if you plug the keyboard in hot. And there you go, so it's rebooted the system. We want to put a sponge under here because we don't want that touching. This will reboot. Right, so now let's go to keyboard and you can test all the keys. They stay green if they're all pressed. And you want to see that every key press is good. So that's every single key, all working good. Control and left Alt gets us back out. The controller ports we just tested, that works, at least for the clicky button. Audio. I think we've got audio pulling through here. Yeah, there we go. So audio screwed. That is not how it should sound. That is literally not what it should sound like. Check all the channels individually to see if we've got sound on certain ones. So, yeah, well, for one, oh, there you go, it's gone off. It said delay in the stream. That's channel 0, which is messed up. Well, what you can also do is change this to a sine wave. So probably do a 500 hertz. So that one's working in a sense. That one's working. That one's working. So it's working in one way. But it's not working because the music isn't right. So the sine wave's obviously correct. How is that dude back spamming that chat as well? I've already blocked him on TikTok. Let's jump back in. Report again. Spam again. Submit again. Yeah, so this music here, that is not how it should sound, basically. So, something wrong with the music side of it. So, that's one thing to bear in mind. Memory. It's got 1 mega memory total. It's found it all, so let's just test all memory. So far, we can load up Rough and Tumble a game and try and play a game and see what the sound sounds like there. But the hardware test is saying there's a problem with the sound. I think these are all different people as well, because I'm on this old TikTok. I've got tons of spammers. I'm blocking them as they're popping up, but I think it's loads of accounts. So I keep blocking them. They should die down. Yeah, so far we have keyboards working, floppy drive is dead for the customer, but a GoTech works, so that's an upgrade for him if he wants that. RAM's all working. The only issue we've found so far is the actual audio isn't quite right. We haven't tested all the other hardware, but that's, again, a bit longer-winded to test external drives and that. So we will, I think we'll report to the customer. So it's already done 4 rounds of this already, so that's now 5. So the RAM's perfectly fine. So control, Amiga and Amiga, we will restart, and I will see if I've got any games on this. I probably didn't put any games on. I did not, so let me just put Rough and Tumble on here, and we'll check the controller and the game, and then we'll report back to the customer after that on where we go with it, basically, where he wants to take it. Amiga 500. Open. I should have, actually. Probably got it in here somewhere. Games. A1200 course. I've got A1200 games on there. I need some. Yeah, I'm going to have to re-download it. I haven't got it on me. Right then, arcade, beat 'em up. It'll be side scroller, so shoot 'em up. Platformer, Rough and Tumble. There we go. So let's chuck these onto D drive. Right, we have 1 game on, so this should load, and then we can test a joystick on it as well. Right, Rough and Tumble. Reload that, and let's get a controller, which I think I've got up here somewhere. I think we've just sold some, so where are they? Right, use a Mega Drive one then instead. I think the Mega Drive ones work. Right, and where is my clicker? Start game. There we go. And if you haven't got an Amiga controller, I'm pretty sure, if I remember rightly, you can just use Mega Drive controllers. And this will also test. This will test more of the hardware as well, running the game. So either, yeah, that's crashed there. It's not load. Oh, there you go. I was just about to say it's crashed, but it hasn't because it takes a while to load. So now that audio doesn't sound far off, to be honest. I think that sounds normal, you know. And let's have a go. Yeah, that audio sounds fine. I wonder if the test I test a lot on Amiga 1200s. I wonder if that's how it tests on the 500. That might actually be how it sounds. So far, the only issue we seem to have then is his floppy drive doesn't work. And we obviously need to clean up some more of that rot, ideally, because it's still quite a rotted board that's not going to survive long, I don't think. I forget how slow the 500s are. I'm used to working on the 1200s at the minute, or the Pi Storms, and I forget how slow the real hardware actually is sometimes. There we go. No, so you see we're missing oh no, we're not. It's the stream delay. I was about to say we're missing the noise of the shooting then. But no, this is normal sound. Whee, rough and tumble. I love the colours on this though. Work, yes, just in time. This is definitely harder with the stream delay. This is what the reason I like the Amiga games though is they remind me of PC games. I was a MS-DOS gamer when I was a kid, really. Doom and Raptor and pinball games. Remember all the old pinball games? So the Amiga kind of reminds me of that. They're very much like PC game-ish. With all the graphics, they're very similar to like MS-DOS era. No. I knew I was going to get hit then. No. Lost all 3 lives in one go nearly. But yeah, that's working. So there's literally the customer just wants a GoTech, really, I'd say. I don't have any 500 floppies around. We no longer service the floppy drives or laser systems because they just don't tend to last these days, so we don't really offer the replacements anymore. So we'd offer him a GoTech upgrade. And it really wants some more remedial work doing on this. It wants some of this trace damage fixing on this board that you can't really see. It's under here now, but, well, you can. All this still needs repairing a bit. It's working, but we want to do more work to really fix that properly. Oh, yeah, I remember Space Pinball on PC. That's one of them I used to play. Right, so I think 7:30 I'm going to crack on with some other work now. But yeah, this one's all up and running for the customer, basically. I mean, it does technically work if he wanted it. He could just choose to risk it and not have any more work done if he doesn't want to pay anymore and just have a GoTech. But I will highly recommend he has that trace damage looked at a bit more first. So that's another one repaired. And if you want to support this channel, I've now enabled the subscriptions and memberships, so like Twitch subs and YouTube members. And I'll be doing subscriber-only streams as well going forward. Like, not the only thing, but, you know, one specific so you can get a bit more attention and training and that if you want to do this. And obviously just super chats and things like that will support the work I do, because it takes a lot longer to stream it than it does to just get on with the job. But yeah, I hope you guys are all enjoying these streams, and I'm doing them most days now. It tends to be the most common one, is come on early mornings. Oh, that's nice of you if you've got a floppy drive. I could definitely do with them. I can certainly buy them as well. It's no problem, because it'll be for like the customer or something. That's much appreciated. You can just either email me at contact@retro6.co.uk or leave a message on any of the socials like Facebook, TikTok, Discord, and I'll definitely take that off you if you don't mind. Yeah, you can use. There's a guy that makes modern power supplies for it. They're about £50-60. I haven't made one yet. I'll probably make one that just has a USB plug at the end. So the original power brick there, and then a USB socket that plugs into it, or a fly-off lead, whichever, to do USB power at some point. The clean screen popping up with left on the D-pad. It should pop up if you hold left start and 2. If it's popping up with just left, then check if your start and 2 wires are soldered. It might think you're pressing all 3, but you're not. This game is rough and tumble. So this is running off Gotek, but it's one of my favourite games on there. So rough and tumble, you'll get 2 discs, or you can download the ADF and play it off Gotek. But yeah, it's an ace little game. It hasn't got as much sound. Like here now, you'd think you'd be hearing shooting sounds and stuff, and you don't really hear them. I think like the balance in audio, either the Amiga's never balanced the audio channels right, or that's how the games were. But I always thought there was a problem with the Amiga at first. But now I'm used to this game. I know that's normal, but it sounds like you should have more sound, if you know what I mean. Like the shooting sound sounds like it's muffled and dull, but that is literally how the game plays. I've done many Amiga 500s. And that's how it sounds. Gotek is this thing here. It's a floppy disk emulator. So it plugs into where the floppy disk is, and then you can just scroll left and right on screen to select what you want to load, like what disk you're inserting, basically. They work on loads of consoles. It's not just the Amiga. It's basically a floppy disk emulator. Fine, guys, I'm going to crack on with all my other work, leave my desk in a mess until the customer gets back to me, hopefully. And then if he does want the extra work, I might stream it as well. It'll just be lifting off that Gary chip, sanding it all down, making sure the traces are solid, cleaning it up, basically. And then I'll probably catch you guys in the morning tomorrow, probably. So everybody have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow.